Both presidential nominees have recently come out in favor of no tax on tips for workers, with former President Trump making it one of his central policy proposals here. But if implemented, what would the impact be on both employers and employees? For more, let's welcome in Karla Dennis, who is KDA Inc's founder and CEO, as well as an enrolled tax agent here. Karla, great to have you here. Okay, so what do we need to know about the status quo right now, and then what this could shift towards?
Absolutely. So right now, employees that are in the service industry, they are taxed on their tips. The tips are included in their wages, and they are going to pay federal and state income tax. And in addition to that, they're going to have Medicare tax and Social Security tax withheld from the wages also. With the change, both of the candidates are stating no longer having tax on tips, which means that withholding will no longer happen. You won't have to pay federal income tax. You won't have to pay state income tax. You won't have to pay Social Security and Medicare tax as an employee. That's what the change is really stating.
So at first, it seems like you're being able to keep more money in your pocket on the outset. But what are some of the impacts as well, the ramifications to what we were looking at on the screen there, employees to government revenue, and to
Absolutely.
There are other sources where this also kind of has funded for so long other elements of government operations.
Absolutely. So what's going to happen in the long run for employees? They are not paying into Social Security. They're not paying into Medicare on those wages. So down the road, when they get ready to draw Social Security, their Social Security amount definitely will be lower. In addition to that, employers are not having to pay into that Social Security and Medicare. Social Security and Medicare is really split between the employee and the employer. So there's going to be less withholding by the employer for the employee and less paid in by the employer, which means in the long run, the government is going to have less funding to operate with.
And so all of this in mind, I mean, and look, I remember my own jobs growing up, working at one of the local diners and, making a fair amount on tips and the wage itself being quite low, wasn't good, but still having to pay taxes on those tips. I mean, even as we're kind of thinking through and having this conversation, what should employees be advocating for their behalf? What is the best outcome for them?
I think they really should be advocating for maybe lowering the tax on the tips. But in the long run, if they're not paying tax on those tips, they are lowering their overall earned income. Earned income is the income that is used later on to qualify to purchase a home. Earned income determines how much money you're making. There is going to be a big impact. And you're going to now have to reserve for your own retirement if you're not paying Social Security on those tips. So you certainly want to make sure that you are thinking ahead and saying to yourself, what am I going to do in the future when it comes time for me to retire? Where is that money going to come from to pay me?
Karla Dennis, who is the KDA Inc. founder and CEO. Karla, thanks so much for hopping on the program with us and giving us some perspective on the no tax on tips that we're hearing from both sides of the aisle here. We'll see what eventually comes forward post-November. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.